What's up, everybody? I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I'm Anthony. On today's video, I wanted to show you the results of an experiment that I just did, one involving black beans that I've never tried growing before in a small space about 4 foot by 4 foot. Y'all know me. If you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know that I love experimenting in the garden. I love trying out things to see what works in my climate and if I could improve on what I already know. So when it comes down to trying new things, I have no problems trying stuff, and I like to see if potentially trying a new variety or a new style of planting gets me higher yields, because that's the whole point here. We're trying to get as high of yield as possible with the least amount of work, because I'm kind of lazy, so I like to do the least amount of work as well. So what I usually like to plant is pole beans, mainly because pole beans are constantly giving. All right, so if you have say a trellis growing up and you constantly pick green pole beans, then they're going to produce all season long. But whenever you start to let them dry on the vines slow down and stop. Well, if you're going to be having a dry vine, in my opinion, you might as well start growing things like bush beans, because it's all one big giant crop. They'll dry on the plant and then you can harvest. So that's kind of my thought process and why I wanted to try this. So I wanted to do a new variety, and I was looking at some black beans. All right, black beans are said to be one of the most productive of the bean varieties. Pinto beans are pretty high, Great Northern beans are pretty high, but when it all comes down to it, when like a lot of cultures like to grow black beans, especially in Latin America, because they are so productive. So I wanted to go ahead and give them a shot, because I've never tried growing black beans before. So I found this variety. It's called the black turtle beans. It's a bush variety, and I wanted to see exactly how many I could grow in a 4 foot by 4 foot area. If you look at the back of this seed packet right here, this is from Baker Creek, by the way, rareseeds.com. I'll put it down below. I don't get a kickback from them. I just, that's what I'm holding, so I'm gonna obviously shout them out. This is, it says that you want to plant space, or have the spacing between each plant to be about 4 inches. Now, that's cool if you're doing like one long row, if you just do 4 inches per. But when it comes down to the rows themselves, you usually want to leave about a foot of spacing, so you can not only walk through it, but allow them to have a little bit more sunlight, But I wanted to try the most intensive way possible to grow these, so I decided to do 6-inch spacing all the way around. So basically I did a 4 by 4 square, and I did 7 rows of 7 columns. Okay, so that's 49 plants. So basically we're being pretty intensive here on how we planted. Now I planted these right about April 10th, and on April 15th it looks like this. Now, unfortunately, I was so obsessed with my Three Sisters garden at the time, I did not take enough pictures of that experiment. I'm sorry about that, but you can basically know that it took about 3 months to go from those seedlings to the point where the beans were all dried on the plants. I actually got my first harvest on July 6th when it was a pretty hot day, and maybe about, 15% of all the beans there were dry enough to pick, so I picked them. And over the next 2 weeks, I was able to start harvesting the rest. Basically, I was just cutting the plant at the soil level, hang the plant upside down, and start picking off the beans that were dry already on the vine. So basically what it did is it took about 90 days to go from being nothing, tiny little seedling, to completely ready to pick and harvest and store dry. So what were the results? Now keep in mind, I did not go hardcore in fertilizing this or watering this. I applied no fertilizer, and we had enough rain during that part of the growing season where I never really watered. I kind of just neglected these because they were in the far corner of the garden. I basically maybe watered them twice. The rest of the time it was basically through rain. I wanted to see exactly how much I could get if I was an average gardener, someone who didn't know about fertilization, hardcore watering, good weeding practices, none of that stuff. I never weeded it, didn't have to, because bush beans grow so dense they don't have to worry about any kind of competition from weeds. I wanted to see exactly how much I could get, and I got 2 pints. 2 pints, and I weighed them right here. Yes, I made sure to put 2 empty jars on the scale, and then, zero it out before I put the 2 jars that had the beans in there. So basically we got 1 pound and 9 ounces of beans. Essentially, if you were to buy that at the store, you probably would have spent maybe $4. So it's not like I made or saved a whole bunch of money by doing this. It's a lot easier if I went and just go ahead and bought it. But if I needed to, I wanted to see exactly how much I could grow in that small space, especially in a very intensive gardening way that I did. So it was nice to know that I could grow what I was able to grow in a 3-month span. So if we take all the factors together, 4 by 4 area, 49 plants, maybe 5 or 6 didn't produce as much as the rest of them did, kind of below average. The rest of them seemed to perform pretty well. We had decent pods, maybe 6 to 7 was the average, 6 to 7 beans per pod was the average, and we got at the end 2 pints or 1 pound 9 ounces worth. I say that's pretty successful when you consider how many calories are actually in 1 cup of dried beans. What I got out of here was probably roughly around 2,500 calories. Now, that's kind of, whoa, that's really not really a lot, and it really isn't, but it's something that you need to consider whenever you're scaling, okay? That's the whole point of doing this experiment. If you wanted to grow enough beans, especially black beans, for your family, a family of 4, to last you a year, you're able to see exactly how many I was able to get from a 4x4 area, simple 16 square feet. You could add a 0 to that, or 2 zeros to that, and that's exactly how much you're going to add to that yield. So unless everything, kind of just falls apart, which it really shouldn't, because we got some pretty hardcore storms and these beans didn't really care. If you were able to grow what you were able to grow, keep the deer from eating them, you could scale that however big you want to. So when it comes down to actually seeing how many you would probably have to grow to have a full season's worth, or I'm sorry, to have a full pantry load that'll actually support a family of 4, we're probably looking roughly at about 3/4 of an acre to an acre just on the safe side. And that's just planting black beans. The best part of this experiment is these only took 3 months. So if you live in a southern climate like mine, I can still plant something here for the next 3 months. So I don't have to plant hardcore and this is the only thing I'm going to eat. I can put something else down. I'm probably going to put cabbage down actually. I'm going to probably put some chicken fertilizer down first, wait about a couple weeks, and then I'm going to put some cabbage down because I want to see how the cabbage grows in the area. But I was extremely impressed by what I was able to get out of such a small space. And I wanted to bring that to y'all on the channel because I think a lot of people question some of the growing practices they might see through the other channels, or if they're even actually growing them at all. And I wanted to show a very realistic expectation of what you can expect if you plant in a certain amount of space. So again, I turned 49 bean seeds, all right, into 2 pints worth, which is actually pretty good, all right? It's not as ludicrous as like corn is, but considering the fact that I didn't have to fertilize, I didn't have to water, I didn't have to do any of that stuff, and I was able to get this, I consider that a win, and I hope you do as well. If you learned anything at all from this video, please do me a humongous favor and give this video a thumbs up. I'd very much appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you are not, and I will catch you all on the next one, all right? Bye. All right, so here's that growing area. Yes, I have a very scraggly looking cucumber vine that I had to basically pull out from the middle of this and push it over, so it's not very healthy looking, and they never do in July anyway. But this is the area that I grew them in. As you can see, there's pieces left. I left 2 plants in so you can see kind of what I was looking at. You see these? I already harvested from this plant, but a lot of these weren't dry yet, so that's why I left them to dry on the vine. This one's not quite dry. Those are, but yeah, this one and that one was one of those plants that I had to plant after the fact because they didn't germinate. So that's why they're taking just a little bit longer to dry out. But this is exactly what they look like. And I basically haven't watered these in the last 3 weeks because I wanted everything to dry, these pods to dry as much as I can. So since it's been, in the 90s, that's what we're looking at. So yeah, just wanted to show y'all a realistic expectation if you plant your own beans in a very small scale.